Hey guys, it's Glazier back with another way to add on more to your day. Of course, not the most consistent video maker, but I feel like we do talking videos is much harder to push them out consistently than it's gameplay. Especially because my gameplay are usually just streams or live reactions. But here we go. Falcons, full man 25 ratings. So I put this one on Goalie Junior Plus channel. Even though the most viewed video on my Goalie Junior channel, which you should definitely check out, is Madden rating review for the Falcons. Also, this means that since the ratings are out, I'm probably going to start doing predictions soon. We'll have to make them, then I have to actually record them. It's going to take a while, but we will get them out before the season starts, most likely. And I'll be able to predict every team's record and such. Stay tuned for that. Subscribe to both channels, and let's get right into this. I'm not going to start with these guys. I don't know these players. I don't want to give y'all incorrect thoughts. I know Javon Gwynn, though, was 62 overall. Pretty sure he was a Georgia offensive lineman, and that's why we drafted him. Don't know much else about him. Avery Williams was our return man, but he got completely overshadowed by Patterson's big punt return touchdown against the Bears. So it makes sense why no one really thinks of Avery Williams as good punt returners, and because he just hasn't done anything important there. Mikael London remember being all right last year, but it wasn't out. I agree it's not good enough to boost his overall up too highly. John Fitzpatrick, blocking tight end from Georgia. He's cool. I mean, I don't know much about him. Of course, I watched Georgia the year he got drafted. He barely played as a important player. He was a block tight end, so you never even notice him. But a lot of these guys also just don't know much about him. Oh, we get the Troy Anderson, one of the funnest players using Madden just because of his speed. I think it used to be 92, so I think it went down to 91, probably because of his injury. So they decided maybe he's a little bit slower now. Don't know if that's the reason, but that's what I just think of. Anderson is a great athlete. Of course, he has to actually translate that to linebacker before he becomes a higher rated player. But we know he has the chances. He's such a great athlete. He's like a Deion Jones. Of course, I don't think he's quite as fast as Deion Jones. But he's a bit bigger too, though. So maybe that speed translates into more hit power since he's bigger. But I want to see more from him after that injury because he's got some competition at linebacker. It's not 90 overall competition. It was like 75 overall competition at least. Next player that I know something about. Chase McClellan from Alabama. Just drafted this year. 66, not too bad for his rookie season. No speed, though, so he's probably going to be pretty hard to use in Madden. And in real life, he's probably not getting much playing time considering we have Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. Do you remember Casey Washington? Not for anything. I just remember his name. D'Angelo Malone. I feel like Zach Harrison should be much higher overall, but we'll get to him in a second. D'Angelo Malone, I don't think he's ever done anything important for the Falcons. In my Falcons franchise in Madden 24, he didn't really do much for me either. But he has a good amount of speed, which makes him always useful. Hopefully that... I mean, we rotate edge rushers all the time, so he could definitely get playing time for the Falcons. But I think who's more likely to get more playing time is Zach Harrison, who actually had like a few sacks last year as a rookie out of Ohio State. Of course, these Madden rankings don't mean as much. Be slower. But, of course, if you're a better pass rusher, it doesn't matter how fast you are. Zach Harrison, someone I'm pretty excited to see this year, especially because he's probably going to be getting more playing time than players like Braylon Trice just because he's more experienced. Hopefully, with all these young guys in here, all these young athletes, you can get some sacks this year, which we did a little bit better last year, but still not up to par with better teams in the league. Taylor Heineke, third-string quarterback now. He was all right sometimes last year. Like, he was so confusing to deal with because, of course, he was more consistent than Ritter, but it really felt like he just didn't hit his stride as an Atlanta Falcons QB like he did as a Commanders quarterback. Of course, I still like Heineke. I'm still pretty happy about us signing him. I still think it was a good decision. I think I'd rather have him teaching our QBs than Marcus Mariota, but he doesn't have a starting future on this team, obviously, now with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Quan Graham's an interesting one because he's been on this team for a long time and he hasn't done anything. I think it's been like 3 years. He joined the team in Madden 22 when Madden 22 came out, so that draft. I know he's from Texas. I know he's played. I did mock drafts and stuff and reviewed these drafts, but I believe he's from Texas and he hasn't done much for us. 68 is pretty high, so maybe he did do a little bit considering that he's actually a decently high overall. Next, we got Kentavious Street, who we traded for from the Eagles last year. It's also kind of a roster overview, since this is the easiest way to look at our roster. And also get at least a little bit of a feel of how good they are by their overalls, and also I get to say if I think I agree with their rating or not. Street, I think his only important thing he did last year was like the first game that he joined our team was get an interception of all things. Absolutely hilarious way to join the team, but definitely respect him for that. Didn't get overall boost up for it, of course, but all right, next, DeMarco Hellams, free safety. Also drafted out of Alabama, I believe. I actually remember him. What was he, like number 42 of Alabama? Can't remember at all, actually. But he's all right. People actually have very high hopes for him, and I have to agree. I believe he had a good preseason as well. We had a good safety preseason last year. And if we could keep developing them, then maybe they're getting taught by Bates. And if we could get a ball hawk like Bates from either Hellams or Abernathy, I'd be very happy with that. Next important man. Michael Penix, rookie QB, 86 speed. That's definitely good enough for Madden. If you can have 86 speed as a QB, you're going to be able to get out of the pocket. I mean, I used Terrell Britt last year with 82 speed, and he was still pretty good as a improviser. So Penix is definitely going to be really good. Of course, they started to dial down how high they rank QBs. So even though he's the 8th pick in the draft, he's only a 70 overall. But assuming he has star development, he will be progressing pretty quickly. And if you use him well, he's going to be a high overall. As a Falcon in real life, though, this is still just a confusing pick for us. Another position that we had pretty much solidified. Then we just drafted a backup. Well, I guess you can't call Bijan a backup. Or Pitts, or London. But just because, like, Pitts was so good out the draft. All sorts so good out the draft that they jumped our already starting player there. Well, London is different because we didn't have a starting receiver at all. But Pitts jumped in front of Hayden Hurst because he's so good. And Robinson jumped out in front of Algier because he's so good. Penix isn't good enough to jump in front of Kirk Cousins, of course. But he's still just a pick at a position that we had really good players in. And another offensive pick when our defense needed an edge rusher. Speaking of edge rushers, Lorenzo Carter's up next. But not saying about Penix. I think he will be good. I think him being taught by Kirk Cousins is a great thing. Still confused by the pick, but overall, I'm really excited to see Penix play for the Falcons. Lorenzo Carter, with his 88 speed, is still going to be a beast off the edge rushing, even if he's not an actual great player in this game. But Brandon Dorlus is actually a 70 overall. Wasn't he picked like 4th round? I'm pretty sure he was picked pretty late. Because we picked Ohororo, I think is how you pronounce his name, not sure, in the 2nd round. Then Trice. Do we have 2 second-round picks? I'm not sure, but either way, Dorlus is actually pretty decently high overall. I guess the NFL has pretty high hopes of him. Kevin King hasn't been doing much in the last couple of years of his career. Maybe this is his retirement home. Clark Phillips is a ball hawk from Cincinnati who's coming into his 2nd year. He struggled in coverage a little bit, but I did like what we saw of him, especially for how young he is. Seeing someone like that already show flashes of being great. Get me off of Brilliant Trice, please. Oh, no, I have to go all the way back. Alright, that's fine. But I'll keep talking about Clark Phillips. A cornerback throwing flashes that early in his career does indicate that he's going to be pretty good. Of course, great cornerbacks, usually like Ahmad Gardner, come out being one of the best players at their position already. So I don't think he's going to be quite up to that level, but he could end up snagging a couple of picks for us. Braylon Trice. Listen, bro, I had this man as our 8th pick, like in my first mock draft, I believe. Go check out my first mock draft on this channel. I think I had either him or Dallas. I can't remember his full name, but the guy from Alabama, Dallas. Yes, that's why I remember him as being our first pick. Of course, Trice was my first ever mock draft. He was our pick, but I changed it later to Dallas Turner. And now we ended up getting him in the 3rd round, so I think it's a pretty big steal. He had a great last year, I believe. He had like 8 sacks. And I think he definitely has the most potential of all of our defensive picks. I'm really excited for Braylon Trice from Washington. And I think I agree with his rating. I mean, for most players drafted in the 3rd or later rounds don't even get up to this overall. So I'm definitely happy with this. Ray McLeod, who's going to be our new return man, kind of making Avery Williams feel obsolete. Actually pretty decent overall for a receiver, especially with this probably agility that he has as a return man. Mike Hughes jumped pretty high. I mean, he fell pretty far. He was like a 76. He's only a 72 now. He was not good last year, so I'm not surprised. I feel like Kadero Haas deserves a little bit higher than the 72. I don't know. I just feel like he's a decent receiver, and he's definitely shown flashes of being good for us. And I don't know if he's going to be much more shown this year with us having Rondell Moore and Darnell Mooney, who we'll get to later. I still think he deserves higher than 72. Another player I think deserves higher is Matthew Bergeron. I mean, he was part of the top 5 offensive line last year, and he goes up 0 overall. He was really the same overall last year, I believe, 73. Bergeron's obviously very good because even if there's one mistake in your offensive line, that rating will not be top 5. So the group of Matthews, Lindstrom, Dahlman, Bergeron, and McGarry is clearly all good players. I don't understand why Bergeron didn't get a boost from that, but I think he's going to have a great year too. D offered actually is a preseason stud, and even he's just a good player. Like, of course, I don't think he's like 80 overall good player, but I think he is a decent maybe slot/backup slot cornerback. Not much else to say about him though. We just haven't seen him enough. He's been shown decently, but he hasn't been shown in a big role. Richie Grant, who was our second string safety last year, he's been dropping overall. I think he was like 77, 76 last year, but he got a pick for us against the Bucks, which basically helped us win that game. But he just hasn't been consistent enough, and Jesse Bates completely overshadowed him as a safety. I think the reason that they're not boosting up any overall is because he's not developing. Grant isn't getting better. So they gave him the benefit of a doubt. They gave him a pretty high rating when he first came in the lead, but now they're seeing that he's not becoming a better safety, so he's just not going up. He's actually going down. Hopefully he improves this year under Jesse Bates' teachings. Nate Landman, undrafted player, I believe, and going into his second starting year as linebacker for us. We thought we had nobody at linebacker, but him and Canellis ended up showing up. Landman, I'm very excited for him. Kind of a traditional linebacker here, good tackler, great run stopper. Very excited for him, and maybe his overall doesn't show it, but he's actually a pretty good linebacker. Rook Ohorhoro, I think I did say it right. 75 overall is a second-round pick. Now, there's this one guy, I can't remember his name, but dang, what college was he from? I can't remember that, but people really want us to pick him instead of Ohorhoro. But I was saying, if we picked Ohorhoro over him and then 2 other teams drafted a defensive lineman over him, probably because he was in public perception the best defensive lineman, doesn't mean he was actually the best defensive lineman according to teams. Because it wasn't us picking someone ahead of him, then the next team immediately jumping up and then picking the next guy. The guy I'm talking about. I can't remember his name though. Let's just search up 2024 NFL draft. Because this is what I want to say. And of course if I get proven wrong here somehow, then I'll be proven wrong. But then we go to round 2. Let's see. We picked Ohorhoro. Then I think it was Javondre Sweat who we were talking about. Am I tripping? But Jason Newton gets picked right after us, then Javondre Sweat. But it also could have been Jason Newton that people really want us to pick. But it seems like since this defensive lineman streak went behind us, it means that we got the guy we wanted. Then every team picked the defensive lineman that they really want, except for the Patriots being weird picking a receiver there. But as I'm saying, this means that this receiver is pretty darn good. I mean, this defensive line is pretty darn good. I don't know if he's the best out of those 4 yet. Of course, you have to actually see, but Madden seems to agree with him being a 75, which is pretty good for a rookie. Eddie Goldman's been reinstated as a defensive lineman. I don't really know what to expect from him. I'm sorry. I just can't expect anything from him. He's been out for 2 years. Evan Cady is the first player I'm going to say definitely deserves a higher rating. I mean, he was really good for us last year. He had 6 sacks. It was in the mid-tier sacks, and I think he deserves more than this. He's done a pretty consistent edge rusher for us. I think he was second leader in sacks, only behind Calais Campbell, who he ended up releasing. He was really good for us, showed signs of development, which should result in a overall increase. I would also not be surprised if he ended up being a normal def, which I'd be sad about, but I wouldn't be disappointed. I wouldn't be surprised considering how Madden likes to do their def traits and ratings. Antonio Hamilton, actually don't remember him at all. Do we trade for him? Do we sign him? Don't know. He's on our team now. Drew Dahlman gets an overall boost in result of our offensive line being so good last year. He deserves it, though. Drew Dahlman's also a great offensive lineman, and really, I think maybe 77 might be too low for him. I'm not going to guarantee it and just make that a hot take, but I do think that's maybe something you could raise up a bit. Darnell Mooney, it's weird to see him a lower overall than Rondell Moore. I feel like he's just better. Am I tripping? Hold on, Darnell Mooney. I don't know why I should put 2 S's in stats. 3 for 414, 31 for 414. So I gotta do my research in the middle of this video because I don't want to be wrong. I mean, he just plain did better. He had more receptions, we had more yards, and he's been more consistent than Moore. I don't understand why he's a lower overall than Rondale Moore. And he's also older. I just don't know why he's lower overall than Rondale Moore. But it's probably just because of how Madden ratings work. So if they have really high speed, they're going to be better as a receiver and such. So since he has 2 more speed than Darnell Mooney, he's going to be a better overall, despite Mooney probably being a better player. But I'm going to lump these guys in one. Both really decent number 2 receivers that were put in pretty hard positions early on in their career. I mean, Rondale Moore had nobody to help him, except for DeAndre Hopkins, who couldn't really stay healthy and on the field. And Darnell Mooney was the starting receiver for the Bears for an insanely long time until they completely overhauled their receiver core this year. But I think both of them have a chance. This is their main best chance to show out this year. They know that they are the second string, whichever one does better is the second string receiver of this Falcons team. And they get to work under Kirk Cousins, which for both of them is probably the best QB they've worked under their entire career. Mooney worked over Justin Fields, and then I don't remember who it was before that. Nobody good. And then Rondale Moore just worked with Kyler Murray. So neither these guys have gone over the best. I mean, of course, Murray has potential to be a great QB. We haven't seen him be consistently that yet. So I'm going to say Kirk Cousins is their best QB. I can't wait to see which one of these guys really just accelerate their career under one of the better QBs in the league. And I'm excited for especially Darnell Mooney, but maybe Moore could be great too with his speed. Koo has been missing a lot of kicks for us recently. I don't want to talk about him. I mean, it's just sad. I mean, he's still a good kicker. He's a very clutch kicker, but he's not a power kicker. And in the league like this, you kind of need guys who can consistently hit 51-yarders. And Koo isn't that guy. Caden Ellis, former Saint. I think he was more of an edge rusher for the Saints last year. I mean, if he wasn't, he was like an outside linebacker, but for us, he's more of a middle linebacker. He got quite an overall boost. I believe he wasn't this high. He was like a 74. It wasn't anything high. But now he's a 79 for the Falcons, and I think he definitely deserves it. Caden Ellis had a great year. And I'm excited for him to be the starter, and I want to see Nate Lemon contend for that. And even Troy Anderson. I want to see both those guys try to take that spot from Caden Ellis. They've got Algier, who they actually respected, giving him an 80 overall. Hold on, was he this? Oh, we gotta look at this, dude. Madden 24 ratings. Cause was he really? Maybe he was. No, there's no like player ratings. What the heck? Does Madden 24 ratings no longer exist? Because they might have just replaced it with the Madden 25. I mean, I had Madden 24, but I want to go into that. What is this? Oh, this is like... Yeah, this is freaking... Alright, that was Ultimate Team. But I don't think Algier was this high overall. Did he go up? I'm really not sure. I think he was at most of 79 last year. But I think this is very deserved. Algier, even with Bijan Robinson taking his spot as a starting receiver, still ended up being really good last year. Of course, he wasn't 1,000 yards good, but whenever Bijan wasn't working, we gave the ball to Algier, and he was very consistent. Of course, he averaged less yards per carry, but, I mean, he's getting less carries. It's less consistent carries. Not that he's having total less carries, it's that he's not getting the ball as consistently, which means he isn't able to build up as much steam over the course of a game as he was last year. Had more touchdowns despite less carries, and even though it was a worse year, for having less carries, he did pretty well. So I think he does deserve 80 overall. Caleb McGarry, pretty consistent. He really came to his stride last year, he came to his stride 2 years ago and then continued it last year. Definitely deserves his rating. He got big ratings boost. I mean, not ratings boost. Contract increase, which I also think was deserved. I just want to keep seeing his offensive line help us through the run and the pass game. David Onyemata, I think he was okay last year. I think he was probably one of our better run stoppers. He didn't do anything flashy, which is why his overall doesn't go up or down from last year, I believe. But another Saints player who's turned out really well for us. Drake London, our highest overall rated receiver at 82. Do I think this is low? Absolutely. I think London's an 84 overall receiver. That's where I would put him. But, of course, how Madden works, how they just put in ratings, this is going to end up being just based off of ratings. So they're not going to be able to just choose how high overall receiver is. So less flashy a slower player like London isn't going to be as high overall as Chris Olave, who's much speedier and more agile, which does go in the receiver ratings. London had another great year last year, just nearing 1,000 yards once again. Actually, he was even closer last year. Of course, he had less touchdowns, but less receptions and more yards. That's always great for a receiver. This year could definitely be a 1,000-yard year for him. I'm expecting a huge breakout from Drake London, which in turn will lead to a higher overall increase. Bradley Pinion, I really just don't care about talking about our punter. I'm just going to skip him. Bijan Robinson, another player who deserves a higher overall than 82. Bijan was the best rookie running back last year, having well over 1,000 scrimmage yards. I don't really he's probably still superstar dev though, right? I would assume so. I don't understand why he's an 82 overall. That just doesn't make sense to me. He's definitely a top 15 running back, and I'd say top 10. And the fact that he's only 82 and Breece Hall's only 84 shows that Madden ratings are just not very good, and you can't really depend on them. Which is why you also can't get too mad at them, because clearly they don't go all the way in the making sure their ratings are completely accurate, because they go into each individual rating most likely. But I think it's also weird that Kyle Pitts is the highest overall of these three. Yes, he was the most anticipated coming out of the draft, most expected to blow up. But no, I think there was more Kyle Pitts haters than Bijan Robinson haters though. But the fact that he, after having the worst season out of these three, is the highest overall, also pretty weird. He was injured, of course, 2 years ago, and then this year didn't have a great year. So I don't understand why he's still a 83 while these two went. Because Kyle Pitts was like 84 last year, went down by 1. Bijan and Drake, neither of them went up very much at all. I don't think Bijan went up by 1. Drake London went up by 1. I just feel like they deserve bigger boosts, and either that or Kyle Pitts is 82, because he's not better than those two players, in my opinion. Do have high expectations for all three of these players. I just can't wait to see how they pan out with Kirk Cousins as their QB. 84 overall. I don't know much about the Vikings last year. I know they weren't great, but they're better than a lot of people thought, because Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. He has 94 injury. Interesting. I didn't expect him to have such high injury. But, yeah, Kirk is going to be good for the Falcons, and he's going to finally make the Falcons actually usable in competitive Madden. I do want to say that, because using Ritter last year was pretty painful. But now that we actually have a competent pocket passer at QB, I think we could, not only in Madden, but in real life also be able to utilize these weapons. Bijan wants 2,000 total yards this year, so he's actually going to be able to get a good amount of receiving yards without Ritter making bad decisions. Kyle Pitts won't be overthrown despite being one of the tallest players, skill position players in the league. He won't somehow get overthrown by Ritter. And Drake London is actually going to be consistently thrown to, instead of being thrown at 10 times, and then 2 times, and then 1 time, and then 5 times. So I think this is just going to completely improve all three of those players, just by Kirk Cousins being our QB. And let's move on to Jake Matthews at 84 overall. Really, dang, dude. I was like, this is video getting too long. No, it's just that we don't have any other players to go. Matthews is one of the most consistent Falcons of all time. I think people don't give him his flowers. Very consistent, even starting games consistently. I think he had holding problems at one point, but he completely fixed those. Last year he was great as well. Great tackle, in my opinion. My opinion of Jake Matthews, when I started to appreciate offensive linemen more, has grown tremendously, and I'm expecting another good year from him. Gray Jarrett's year ended with injury, but he was definitely good before he got hurt, I'll tell you that. And, I feel like as a defensive lineman, he's nearing the end of his career. Maybe he'll pull Calais Campbell and play way longer than you expect. Who knows? But Jarrett looking to carry this completely fresh and new defensive line group into maybe the biggest, most sacks we've had since, Super Bowl year? We'll see. Terrell wasn't consistent at all last year. That's what I'm going to start with. He can consistently get beat by good players like DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Evans. But at the end of the day, we still know he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. You know, he's not really top 10 anymore. He's definitely top 15. And I feel like he's still kind of overlooked as a cornerback. He had that one good year, and then after being all right for 2 years, I feel like this is the year we need to show, is he going to be a great player or a good player? And I think the Madden range will show that as well. He could either end up being up to a 93 next year or 85, considering if he actually improves as a player or he stays being the same all-right A.J. Terrell that we've seen for the last couple of years. Chris Lindstrom is next, and he has potential to be the best offensive lineman in the league come 2 years from now. He's already a top 5. And in my opinion, and I think ratings have him near that area as well. I mean, give this man his flowers. He's consistently dominated that interior blocking along with whoever's at center, whether it be Drew Dahlman or whoever was before him. He's always been dominant there, even since his first year. McGarry was different because Caleb McGarry was bad, in my opinion, for his first 2 years. Then ended up being really, really good 1 year, and we gave him a paycheck. Lyncham was not only consistent, but actually a good offensive lineman since really day one. Then he just had a really good year instead of McGarry having 2 not great years and a good year, where Lyncham had a couple good years and an amazing year. I think it was the best year of all offensive linemen, so he definitely deserves this rating. I don't think this shows Superstar Dev, by the way. I think it only shows X Factor. So I think he definitely has Superstar Dev. Finally, last and definitely not least, is Jesse Bates moving up to a 97. What was he last year? He couldn't have been anything above like 93. I don't think. Either way, 97 is one of the highest ratings Falcons have had as a player since Julio Jones. I really can't think of anybody who had this high of a rating. I mean, Jesse Bates is built different. Highest ranked safety in the league. He forced like 9 turnovers and then had also a ton of tackles for loss and tackles. This man was insane. Of course, safeties aren't the best in Madden because of how they react to stuff, but strictly Falcons IRL-wise, this man is amazing, and I'd be surprised if he fell off at all next year. Of course, he probably won't have 9 turnovers again, but as long as he does even some of the things he did last year, I'm sure our defense will be as good, if not better, than it was last year. And that's how I'm going to end it. Okay, does that erupt? But one thing I do want to do, I want to not sort by team anymore. And then I want to go by position. Let's just do all the offensive linemen. I want to actually see exactly where Chris Lindstrom is, because I actually don't remember. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's just outside the top 5. And he's probably the best offensive lineman in Madden, or the second best, because all these guys are much older except for Penei Sewell. So he's probably, if you combine age and overall, he's the second best offensive lineman that you could want. So, yeah, Chris Lindstrom's pretty good. And that's actually how we're going to end it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this one didn't get too long. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing me talk about my favorite team of all time. And tell me in the comments below if you think anybody should have been higher or lower overall. See you guys next time.